Firstly, we want to extend a welcome to the children. We are really thankful that you are here in worship with us today. You are an important part of our church family. And I want to extend a welcome to the members of the youth group who are here. We are delighted that you are with us in worship. You are an important part of our family, and I hope for all of you this will be a meaningful service. When I was a child, we used to observe Remembrance Day, and I got the wrong impression about Remembrance Day because I was a little kid, and they would bring some veterans to our school, and they were always really, really old, ancient people. They were probably around 40. Some of them may have been pushing 50. So the mistaken impression I got was that Remembrance Day was about old people. And today, if you count up the years, you will recognize that anyone who is a veteran of the Second World War is at a minimum about 90 years old. So we might think that Remembrance Day is about an ancient historical event, but it's not. The first thing we have to remember is that the people who fought to defend freedom and honor, many of them were teenagers. Many of them were in their 20s. They were young people whose lives had just begun. And so Remembrance Day isn't a time to gather and have pride in the sense of a great military victory. It's a time to gather to allow our hearts to be broken, to recognize the pain and sadness that comes with war, and to pray to God that it will never happen again. To help us understand that, we have three of our youth who will bring to you the story of some of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And I'm pleased to introduce our first reader, Cole. Come on forward, Cole.
Do you like sports? I love sports. My favorite sport is baseball. I've been rooting for the Cubs for the past few days because the last time they won the series, I was alive. I didn't get to play much as I wanted to. You see, I was born on a farm outside of Brantford, Ontario. And I was raised on the farm with my mom, my dad, an older sister, and two younger brothers. I know that most of you aren't from a farm, but life on the farm didn't leave a lot of time for sports. There was always chores to do. I'm not sure if you use the word chores now, but let's just say there was a lot of chores. Like milking cows, fixing fences, feeding the chickens, and always cleaning the manure out of the stalls. Yeah. I didn't mind hard work though. Everyone else was working hard too. Dad, Mom, my older sister, and my two useless younger brothers. but they did their best. But it wasn't work all the time. When the chores were done, we were allowed to play, and we played baseball. I loved it. I was great at baseball. I don't want to brag, but I could hit the ball clean out of the field nearly every time. And I could run faster than anyone I knew. But I still remember those great summer days where the trees were golden and the air was fresh. But then came the war. We heard about the war in Europe. It was like something that happened in a different world. It didn't seem like anything we should be concerned about. But then I got worried. The war became more serious. Canada needed soldiers, and our recruiting station was set up in town. I was young, strong, and fast. I knew that I would be a great soldier. I wanted to protect Canada and to protect my mom, my dad, my sister, and my 2 brothers. So I signed up for the infantry, and almost right away I was on a train to Halifax, a boat to Liverpool, and then a train to South England where we trained. After 6 weeks of training, we took a trip to northern France, and then we marched through mud and snow for another week until we came to where the fighting was. Our first job was to attack and take back a farm the enemy had captured. From the distance, the farm reminded me of the farm I grew up on. 100 of us lined up, and at dawn we began our attack. We had guns and grenades. We were all young and strong, so there was no way we could lose. But then suddenly, there was explosions all around us. My friends were falling and dying, and then there was only darkness. I woke up on a cold floor in a tent that was supposed to be the hospital. The right side of my body was broken and bloody. My arm and my leg and my chest had all been destroyed. I never knew so much pain. All I could think about was my family. I'd never be able to get this ball again. Then the pain ended, and I slipped into death. I died so young that there was hardly anyone to remember me. Once my parents, sisters, and brothers were gone, I was forgotten. No one remembered my name. And so I want you to remember how young I was. Remember that I was a great baseball player. Please remember me by being thankful for everything you have. Your family, your friends, your school, your freedom. Remember me by living for peace, freedom, and the dignity of others.
When you were a kid, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up? I always knew what I wanted to be. My name is Mary, and ever since I was a child, I wanted to be a nurse. When my little brother was sick, he went to the hospital, and the nurses were so kind and helpful that I wanted to be just like them. So I started to study and eventually became a pediatric nurse because I loved children. It was a lot of work. I had to study at a university and then at a hospital. But finally, I was qualified and I went to work in a big city hospital. I loved the work I was doing and my family was so proud of me. But it was 1942. And before I really even got started, Matron came and told us that the military needed nurses to go over to Europe and help the soldiers who had been injured in the war. I was so proud of what those soldiers were doing, I knew I had to sign up. I didn't really know what I was getting into. The trip to Europe was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. We sailed across the ocean in an old freighter. We were frozen, seasick, and worst of all, terrified because the enemy submarines were attacking the convoys. I was so glad to just touch solid ground again in England. I worked for a while in England helping the soldiers returning home. After the Battle of Dieppe, we received 600 wounded soldiers in one day. After a few weeks, I got new orders to go to a casualty clearance station in northern Italy. I traveled by train, frightened for the whole journey. we saw were burned out buildings and blackened battlefields. In Italy, we set up firstly in big tents, but then in a series of bombed out buildings. It was so sad and terrifying. Sad because of the terrible injuries of the young soldiers suffered, and terrifying because our medical station was within range of enemy guns and bombs. Many of the young soldiers had lost an arm or a leg. Some lost their eyesight, and of course, some were so badly injured we couldn't save them. The doctors were lucky if they had two minutes to rest in between major operations. We were always cold, tired, and hungry. All I could think of all the time was my home, my parents, my friends, and all the wonderful things I would enjoy when I got home again. But I was never home again. On a quiet morning, we got word that our soldiers had lost a battle and the enemy was coming closer. We prepared for incoming wounded soldiers, but they never arrived. Instead, our medical station was bombed. We couldn't leave. We worked so hard to move the wounded soldiers out to a safe place. I heard a terrible noise, and my life came to an end. I would never see my mom, dad, my brother, or my home again. My career as a nurse and my life were over. I died so young that there was hardly anyone to remember. Once my parents and brother were gone, I was forgotten. No one remembers my name, and so I want you to remember. Remember how young I was. Remember how much I wanted to help other people. Please remember me by being thankful for everyone you have. Your family, your friends, your school, your freedom. Remember me by living for peace, freedom, and dignity of all people.
Do I think you have a favorite food? For me, I love pizza. It's my favorite. How about movies? Do you guys like movies? I like Jurassic Park, even though I was only 2 when it came out. I like X-Men and Shrek. Shrek was my favorite. I was only 10 when that came out. Anyways, my name is John, and I'm here to tell you that while we honor and remember those who died in World War I, II, the Korean War, and as Canadian peacekeepers, some Canadian soldiers died much more recently. I grew up in a world just like the world you live in. I went to the same school as some of you are going to now. I really like math and science. I wasn't so good at English though. I decided I would go to university, study math, and become a civil engineer. That's a person who designs and builds roads and all of the systems to keep the city running smoothly. Before going to university though, I decided to make some money by joining the Army. I signed up in 2010 when I was 18 years old, not too much older than some of you. I was really interested in engineering, so I became a sapper, which comes from the French word meaning support. I was sent to Afghanistan in 2011, and even though I was a soldier with the rank private, I didn't expect that I would be involved in any fighting. The sappers built roads, bridges, and all kinds of buildings from airports to hospitals. I really loved the work, and knew it was a great practical experience before starting my engineering studies at the University of Waterloo. I wasn't directly involved in the fighting, but there was fighting all around me. We were traveling in an LAV-3, that's a light armored vehicle, with a bunch of other vehicles towards North Canada. We went through towns and open fields, occasionally hearing the sound of gunfire, but mostly seemed like a light day of fighting. Then came the explosion, right under our truck. I know now that it was an IED, an improvised explosive device. It was just a crack of sound like I never could have imagined. A flash of light, and then darkness. I was thrown 50 feet into a field, and I knew right away that I was dying. I was in shock, but I could immediately see that between my physical injuries and my blood loss, I was done. I looked into the sky, and I wanted so much to be home again. I wanted to be with my friends, order a pizza, go out to a movie. I wondered what university would have been like. Would I have been a good engineer? I died so young that there was hardly anyone to remember me. Once my family and friends were all gone, no one will remember me. No one will remember my name or what I family, your friends, your school, your freedom. Remember me by living for peace, freedom, and dignity of all people.
I hope that all of you will remember Tom and Mary and John, and remember every other person who has died in conflict, and remember that even today people are dying in senseless wars. Wherever they are, whatever country they are in, they are people who should have been able to live out their lives fully and enjoy God's gift of life. It was taken from them. So let us all live for peace, for justice, for sharing, and for respecting all people, even if they are different from us. And then we will be living with God's hope. Amen. On this Remembrance Sunday, O God, we remember with heavy hearts all of the suffering caused by war and conflict. We thank and praise you for every person who sacrificed that we should live for freedom and for honor. Heavenly God, let your Spirit be with us today, that we might rededicate our lives to peace, justice, and compassion for the sake of Christ. Amen. And I welcome Laura and Noah to come forward for the placing of the wreath for us today. And as Laura and Noah pick up the wreath and take it to the white cross up into the choir area, we do so remembering respectfully that the freedoms that we enjoy were won for us at great sacrifice. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Noah.
In Flanders Fields, written by Colonel John McCrae, M.D. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, roll on the road that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks, so bravely singing fly, scarce heard among the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you, from veiling hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Thanks, Mike. If you are able now, I invite you to stand as I read through the list of the members of this congregation who died in the First and Second World War. Lieutenant Solon Albright, Private John M. Bissett, Semper Laverne Osgood Marr, Private George R. Purdon, Private James Stanley Reed, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Reed, Lance Corporal Andrew B. Robertson, Bombardier Stanley W. Schreiber, Private Gordon H. Stauffer, Second Lieutenant Clifford Stokes, Lieutenant Robert G. Washburn, Private James Willis, Private Kenneth G. Cochran, Captain David L. Cowan, Lieutenant Robert D. Hurd, Lieutenant Alfred S. Kingsley, Flying Officer Donald M. McIntosh. Warrant Officer Class 1 Charles B. McIntosh. Lieutenant William Jameson Martin. Flying Officer Donald J. Mackay. Sergeant John Rennie, G.C. Flying Officer John R. Spatzel. Lieutenant George D. Utman. Flying Officer Larry E. Vetch. Private Cameron G. Cammy Washburn. Major Eric A. Willis. Flight Lieutenant Harold A. Wills. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning,